square on the right represents the physical body. Then the waves represent the mind, or as I'll continue to explain, the mental body, or the subtle body, as it's also called. And then the point of view represents the witness, the individual witness. And the kind of bowl-shaped, or like satellite dish shape, if you will, representing the edge of a sphere. But it's a 2D representation, so it looks kind of like a bowl, but it's really supposed to be kind of like a satellite dish, or like a bowl-shaped, a big bowl. And that represents the God state, or the pure I am, the true universal I am, the true universal consciousness, which you hear a lot of sort of teachers and teachings talk about. Is that state of oneness, it's that state of universal consciousness, that state of pure isness, that state which is the substratum of all things, of all appearances, of all experiences and perceptions. And then the question mark and or the infinity symbol represents kind of the infinite, indescribable absolute, out of which even that consciousness, beingness, bliss arose, that awareness, love, light, that God principle. The concept of a body is a vehicle, but it can also be viewed as a veil. So just like your physical body has the functionality that it has to interact with the physical plane, your mental body, your mind, your subtle body, which here is represented by the waves, has the functionality of operating, of functioning at the subtle planes, or the dream planes, you could say. Like when you go to sleep at night and you start dreaming, you lose all consciousness of your physical environment. You lose consciousness even of your physical body. And what takes place instead is a consciousness of the subtle body. It's a consciousness of the dream body, if you will. And the dream body, or the mind in this case, has the functionality of interacting with that dream world, the world of imagination, the world of thoughts, the world of subconscious projections, the world of impressions and preferences. So when you go to sleep and you enter the dream state, it's basically the subtle body, and you lose awareness of the physical body. All right, so imagine these like shells or like layers that include the former body. So the physical body in this case is enclosed by the mind. And the mind is of a subtler substance. It's of a subtler nature. It's not as dense. It's not as physical. It's not as tangible as we're used to being focused on. Anything that's subtler, when you hear me use the word subtler, it means it's kind of like the sky is subtler than the clouds. The sky can exist without the clouds, but the clouds cannot exist without the sky. So also the sky pervades or permeates the clouds. It's like it interpenetrates. It's like the sky penetrates every aspect of the cloud. And the cloud is just an appearance inside of that subtler space or sky in this case. And so kind of like the, what you call the matryoshka dolls in Russia, where you have different layers. It's a similar idea. And in the East, they've been teaching the system in different ways. There's sort of different philosophies, and they have a lot of similarities. There's like the three-body system, which describes the gross body or the physical body. It describes the subtle body or the mental body or the mind. And it describes a body beyond that, which they call the causal body. In this case, again, that's represented by the body of space or nothingness. And that's the green circle here on this diagram. Then there are systems that teach, that have a fourth body. And the main difference between the fourth body and the three-body system is that in the four-body system, they see also God, which in the three-body system, they view as the true self. And the three bodies, they see kind of like veils that are covering the true self. But in a four-body system, the first three bodies are pretty much exactly the same in their description. But they add a fourth body because they say, and I agree, that even the God state, even Brahman as we know it, even awareness, love, light, even Satchitananda as they call it, even that pure consciousness, that pure I am, that pure beingness, that universal beingness is in essence still a veil. It's still a body. It's not the true self. It's not the absolutely true self. And so that's really the only difference. It's a main difference, but it is the only difference between the three body or the four body system. When you step off of the edge of the subtle body, if you will, when you take your attention away from the subtle body, you enter into the causal body per default, like automatically. Any one of you take an average Joe from the street and you somehow manage to guide him to the very end of his subtle body, energetically speaking, like take the elevator beyond the subtle body, then the causal body will be the next plane, the next body, the next veil, the next stage, the next dimension of consciousness, if you will, the next layer of the onion that they will automatically end up into. It's the most logical progression. Can someone step beyond this? Yes, absolutely. But it's just typically not stable. It then goes back and forth. We shoot back into the mind. Even if we have a glimpse of God, we shoot back into the mind and all of our impressions take back over and our distortions. And, 20 seconds later, all we have is a memory of the direct experience. So there's a lot of this oscillation back and forth that can be greatly balanced and stabilized if we include this body of space or the body of nothingness or the causal body. If we include this in our understanding, our conscious understanding, we learn to recognize this stage within our consciousness, this level, this veil within our consciousness. It is a body easier to stabilize in. And that gives us the platform. It turns it into a trampoline for us to usher ourselves into the next body, or as some people call it, the end of the line, but it's really not the end of the line. The next body, the next most logical progressional step is the realization of that pure essence, that God essence, that I am consciousness essence. But again, that is even subtler. God is even subtler. You could say God is the subtlest of all. And therefore, to the mind-based consciousness that's so used to focusing on the subtle body and the physical body, or the first and the second body, to jump to the fourth body of the God state is quite the leap. And it's typically not able to maintain that type of recognition. And that's why I teach the 2 to 5 seconds, is because you can recognize it for 2 to 5 seconds and then repeat that and get familiar with it. Then your ability to recognize the subtle becomes better. You become practiced at it. You increase your ability to recognize the subtle and be less distracted by the obvious and the physical and the tangible and the gross and the overt.